Well, thank you. It is so great to be here today to share with you guys. Even though we're doing this online, a lot has changed in the past 2 years, but still it's wonderful to be able to share about the impact and the improvements that we are seeing with online development of literacy skills. So, Litasa 2021, and this year we will be talking about visual intelligence. So we will have a look at the important aspects regarding visual intelligence development and the role that this plays in improvement of literacy levels. I think especially with regards to our older students. Before we look at visual intelligence and the impact that we've seen with the systems that we've used online, I think it's important that we all just make sure we're on the same page. And so today, before we get to the outcomes, stop for a while and talk a little bit about what is visual intelligence. So the first aspect that I think we need to just look at is neuroscience, because this plays a very big role in what we've seen happening with advanced literacy development. So neuroscience confirms that your brain is an organized, self-organizing creative system, and that every skill and every ability that you have throughout your life has been developed through repetition in different regions or a region of your brain through the building of neural networks. So the more that you practice something, we all know, the more automatic it becomes. And when we look at literacy levels, this plays a major role. There are certain things that happens when we are interacting with visual information that needs to be automatic. And not only automatic in a sense of oral reading, but silent reading fluency is the aim of what we are doing, and that's where we will get to when we look at our results at the end of the day. Okay, so what is visual intelligence? And why is this so important? Visual intelligence is the ability to find the right information, to access that information, to interpret it, to make meaning from it, or to understand it, so that you will then be able to use this in an intelligent way to make choices for a better life. And why would this be so important? You know, we are talking about collective intelligence, and we are looking for whole communities to improve the way that they work with information so that they can advance to the next level. So visual intelligence has to do with improving lifestyles, with changing the way that students interact with their curriculum, the way that we interact with information, to impact that in such a way that our citizens becomes more engaged. And at the end of the day, that we can build and train collective intelligence so that we can build a better future for our communities. So looking at the way to improve visual intelligence, there are 4 areas that I think is really important. The first area would be the visual skills development aspect. So you have to be able to see information, you have to be able to assess different things around you and decide what is important, what is not important. So the visual aspects of perceptual accuracy, visual efficiency, the optic motor training, I almost want to say the eye tracking that is taking place while we are working with information is crucial. The second aspect would definitely be the reading skills, where we have to build upon the basic or the foundational reading skills to get to advanced levels. Then of course the comprehension or the cognitive skills development, where we really need to look at engagement, prior knowledge, looking at to know how words work, connecting prior knowledge with new knowledge, and using all these different strategies and skill sets that we have to develop for comprehension. And then lastly, an aspect that I think is crucial for the future is metacognition. So we need to teach our students how to think about the way that they interact with information, to learn to think about language, to learn to think about information in a way that they are starting to use it proficiently. And it's not only looking at information and passing on to the next bunch of things that I need to learn, but really starting to think about the way that you work with information. And there are a number of skills and strategies that we can teach our students to help them to improve with metacognitive skills. Okay, so let's just back down quickly and look at reading, where we are regarding the development of reading skills. Now, there are two main types of reading: oral reading and silent reading. And if we look at the way reading has been developed and the focus that we've seen for so many years, we'll find that a lot of attention has been drawn to oral reading, because that is the learn to read phase. And I think about 80-90% of our effort goes into teaching students how to read. And we get sort of stuck on the oral development of reading skills. Whereas silent reading fluency is the biggest portion of reading. Extensive, intensive reading, learning how to scan, how to find the right information, how to read for content or to study information, and then of course language as well. And so we will find that a lot of research has gone into teaching students how to read. And there are very important facets here that we need to look at and that should be done very well. So the National Reading Panel in the United States took out 5 areas that is very important in teaching students how to read, which is phonemic awareness, phonics instruction, reading fluency, referring to oral reading fluency, vocabulary development, and comprehension. And we need to teach these areas explicitly and in a step-by-step way so that our students will know how to read. But we cannot get stuck there. If we look at Scarborough's reading rope, for instance, we cannot get so bogged down in the individual parts of the rope that we never get to weaving this rope in such a way that we can properly use it. It's no use you've got all these loose strings and you don't put it together so that you can, for instance, climb the mountain. Let's quickly look at the way that reading develops and how we can move past the foundational areas of reading to get to visual intelligence training. There are different phases in reading development that Jean Chall proposed in 1983, and we've pulled together a table just to show the various aspects of reading development and how this plays into the whole development of advanced reading skills. And we're going to look at 3 different routes that Stephen Schwartz proposed as well in the 80s, just to show you how this flow grows. So in the phonological route, that is up to the beginning of grade 3 or age 9 years old, we will find all the basic or foundational reading skills training that's needed to teach our students how to read. From age 0 right through to age 9. It's the whole phase of learning to read, learning how to decipher language. And then the controlled visual route should take place from age 9. And then, of course, the automatic visual route starts when we go to grade 8 or high school up until tertiary. And then further advanced reading training takes place even as adults. Because we are all in a phase of the human development where skills should be unlearned and relearned, new things should be learned, and we all need to face this head on. So the framework for reading skills, and we propose a 3rd pillar there that is very important when we look at visual intelligence training. Because automaticity will play a major role in giving the brain access to resources to work with comprehension. We don't want to get bogged down with the fluency of reading the information and don't have enough resources available to interpret, to understand, to evaluate, to think critically about what we are reading. And that's why automaticity plays a big role. And we have found that the oculomotor or optic motor skills that's needed for reading fluency when we read silently is crucial in developing these basic aspects of reading. Right, so the framework looks at the basic components of language comprehension and decoding, and then of course, as we said, the third pillar there, optic motor skills or oculomotor skills. Now, the challenge that we have is that most people and teachers, parents alike, expect that reading development stops at the end of grade 3 or when our children turn 9-year-old. We expect them to be able to read and to read well enough to continue on with their life of learning. The truth is actually that reading can and should be developed right through our lives. Every phase of life we are faced with new challenges. There's maybe if you move to a new job environment, there are new ways that you have to learn how to work with the information in that environment. Just moving from primary school to secondary school was already a challenge in itself. And if we can get this reading rope woven tightly enough together, it can be used proficiently. And that is what the last 3 phases of reading development, phase 3 to 5, that Jean Chall talks about, plays a major role. So, reading is a complex and a very integrated action. And the way that our eyes move across the text gives a very good indication of the fluency levels. And if you drill down into the various aspects within the reading motion, you will be able to see clearly where a student is actually struggling. So for instance, we have international norms and standards to show us what is the time frame that a student should stop when reading a portion of text. So the eye is moving almost like a bouncing ball across the text. When the ball bounces, it stops. And in that stop, we call it a fixation. In that fixation, there are a certain number of information that should be taken in. And that information must now be relayed in the brain and put into a place of understanding within the context of the text that is being read. So the time frame that I stop, so duration of fixation is important. How many times do I read back? Can be an indication of not knowing the vocabulary well enough, or, you know, we are creatures of habit. Children learn the darndest things when they learn how to read, and this is one of the reasons why focusing on phonics for too long a time frame can cause children to actually, almost want to say, dawdle when they are reading. So the eyes are trained to look at only one sound in a word instead of starting to read in phrases, getting to know the word so well. So that automaticity can and should be trained. And we've seen really great success in advancing students to better reading levels once they're able to master those skills. So how many times I'm reading back, how long I'm fixating, how much am I seeing when my eye is stopping, and all of this impacts on the visual processing that is taking place. And when we then look at this with comprehension added to it, it's, you know, the physical, the psychological, the emotional, the environment factors, the oculomotor skill sets, the strategies that the student is using, all of these aspects must play their role together to bring the student to advanced reading level. And once we get there, we can start to talk about visual intelligence. All right, so let's quickly look at one fixation or one eye stop as described by Stephen Schwartz. And you will see there are 3 pathways that we are looking at this moment. So the first one is the phonological pathway, and this is the pathway that we should normally follow when we learn how to read, where there is an attention filter, there's a form input in units, letters or words. We learn how to identify those units, and then this is rehearsed in the short-term memory. And once we've been able to do that, we can carry this information to the long-term memory, and at the end of the day, go on to the next eye stop. And that is how we decipher the text that we are busy working with. The second route, which should be the route that we achieve by age 9, is the controlled visual reading route, where we don't have to rehearse anymore. You can see we skip the identify units, the rehearsal in the short-term memory, but we move directly, seeing the words, identifying the words, to the long-term memory so that we can start to interpret what is happening in the text. And then the shortest route is the automatic visual reading route, the blue one there. And this is where we want to get our senior students. Once we're able to achieve the automatic visual reading route, we're able to start to train them in visual intelligence. And at the end of the day, just to in short say, we need to be able to see more, read faster, and of course, remember better, so that we can use previous knowledge to create new knowledge with that. All right. Now, what we did during the lockdown, we used an online system to assist students to develop the specific skills that we've been talking about now, bringing various comprehension strategies and fun exercises in ways that they could work with it online without a teacher with them, to help them to develop these specific skill sets so that we can move them to a place of becoming visually intelligent. We're going to look at a grade 4 student in a rural setting that struggled with the crossing over from grade 3 to grade 4, the impact that it's had in this boy's life. We'll also look at some Dean's Merit List students at university and the best students in their schools, but still needing the support to develop the skills and the strategies to advance to the levels that is expected of them when they start to study on their own at university. And excited that this can really make an impact on every level of society. Meeting our students where they are at, and from there helping them to develop and to build skills and strategies to have a better visual intelligence when working with their schoolwork. So let's see how we can impact collective intelligence. Let's have a look at some of those results. So the first student that we are looking at is the grade 4 that I mentioned. And when we look at his results, you will see that we have an eye tracking evaluation added to this. You will, on the left top hand, the results of the eye tracking, notice a lot of red. So this student is actually in grade 4, but on average is reading on a grade 1 skill level. And you notice the long green line at duration of fixation there. And we have found that the duration of fixation often looks like this. It almost looks as if the eye is stopping very short intervals, but the problem is that the eye is moving not rhythmically across the text, stopping and seeing what is needed to see within a duration of fixation. And because of that almost vibration, the instrument would measure as if it's very good. At the end of the day, it's actually one of the areas that need the most attention. If we look at the bottom graph there, you will notice that there's a lot more green. This student has improved after 15 sessions working on the online system, even though the duration of fixation, as I mentioned just now, still needs a little bit more attention. So within the online system, the outcomes evaluated was 107 words per minute initially and 20% comprehension. And the student completed their course on 245 words per minute with 80% comprehension. And of course, feedback from the student and the student's mom. Let's just look at one or two things there. As I said, he was going from grade 3 to grade 4, and one of the biggest challenges for them was he had now to be able to learn his own schoolwork and study for himself. And because he couldn't read, they were very worried about what the outcome of his year would be. So Mom says, iBrain Gym opened up worlds for us. After only 5 sessions, we could already see a big improvement. And my son started at 107 words per minute with 20% comprehension and completed his training as 245 words for 80% comprehension. She also mentions that his life changed, and I think this is the most important thing for us. Empowering one student, empowering every student that we can to have a better future, to have a better life, and in that way building collective intelligence. Because learning became a part of everyday living, because he could now read, schoolwork become a lot more fun. And at the end of the day, once he had completed the course, he actually measured as one of the top 15 students in his grade level at school. Okay, let's look at a tertiary student, Dean's Merit List, that started at 126 words per minute, 40% comprehension, and completed at 327 with 70% comprehension. And Mark even mentions here that it helped him with his academic workload because he's studying medicine, and that is one of the real challenges. All this masses of information that our students now have to work through, and giving them the correct skills development, giving them that strategies that they need to get beyond where they might be stuck. So visual intelligence training with an online system, I'm glad to say that we have seen real successes, measurable successes, and we're looking forward to see how this can be used to leapfrog not only small pockets of students, but to advance nationally our students to a higher level of visual intelligence, better reading skills, better reading strategies, higher literacy levels, better cognitive development, so that we can get beyond this backlog that we have seen that took place in our classes due to the COVID-19 lockdowns. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to contact me. I think my email will be on the screen, and look forward to chat. Take care, keep on reading.